For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ronan McDonald, and I'm the founder of Cred. We work at the intersection of technology and education. I have the pleasure of working with people around the world to help them build sustainable habits in the areas of building learning capacity, supporting their mental health and well-being, and helping people create positive behavior change for pro-social impact. Our purpose at Cred is to collectively enable people, today's actions, to impact tomorrow's world. And I couldn't think of a better time to live this purpose. I'm joined today by my co-host Kendra Strudwick, who I will introduce in a moment. So firstly, what is Cred.15? So it's like F45, but for the brain. We want to create the space where we can support you to understand what's going on in your brain, to help you navigate this time, to feel connected, and to hopefully build some new habits. We realize some of you are joining us from other parts of the world. It might be your evening, and it's morning time here in Sydney. Some of you may come seeking structure and focus for your day. Some of you may come just seeking connection. Some of you may come seeking reflection. We welcome everybody. It's all okay. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get going. For those of you who are not familiar with Zoom, you're all muted, but we have some exercises where we might invite you to come off mute. So there's a button on the bottom left-hand corner just to unmute yourself. We would also ask some questions, and there's a chat box where we'd invite you to type your responses in. For those of you joining us on Facebook Live, we'd encourage you just to maybe take a moment to reflect on some of the answers, or to just note them down on paper. So I'd like to welcome Kendra Strudwick, my trainer at the Neuro Leadership Institute, my coach, mentor, and friend. Thank you, Kendra.
Thanks, Ronan, and welcome everyone. I'd like to start today with a short arrival activity, a mindfulness activity. There's no wrong or right way to do this. All you need to do is to listen to my voice and guide you through the process. You can have your eyes open or closed if you like. Breathe. Breathe again. Smile. Relax. Arrive. Where you are. Be natural, open to effortlessness, to being. Rather than doing, drop everything, let go, and arrive. And now that we're present and we're here and we're focused, I'd like to invite Ronan to take us through the How Are You Feeling activity that we do every morning and every evening.
Thank you, Kendra, and thank you for supporting us to arrive into the session this morning. So Kendra normally does this session, but I'm going to take this part of it today. So a lot of times when I do this exercise with leaders or organizations and I ask, how are you feeling? I met with a response of, we don't do feelings here, Ronan. We don't do emotions. And I get that, particularly when a 45-year-old Irish guy is asking you, how do you feel? So what about if we reframe this and looked at it as data? We're all used to data in our lives. We work with data. We see data in our reports. So if we use this to help us understand what is going on, we can choose to do something with that data. Another dear mentor of mine, Tim Dwyer, I hope he won't mind him won't mind me quoting him, says, intuition is just an undocumented checklist. So how about we use this time to tap into our intuition, but to help you create that checklist. So I'm going to invite you to think about how do you feel at this time? And we want to focus on the words. So take a couple of seconds to think about a word that resonates with you. And I'm going to give you some silence to do this. So at the moment, guys, we're actually living in a time where we have swirling emotions. It's probably not just one emotion. So I want to encourage you to think, what else is going on? Not just one emotion, not just one feeling. Choose another word here on the screen. Okay, I'm not going to let you off the hook again. I'm going to ask you to go a bit deeper, guys. Is there another word that you're feeling? Choose another word that describes how you're feeling at this time. Again, I'll give you some silence to do this. So guys, these feelings can coexist, and that's all okay. They can change within the day. They can change within the hour. So for me, I oscillate between stressed, anxious, and excited. Okay. So I'd like to invite you to type your answers and responses in to the chat box now. Kendra, can you see is there any sharing? Anyone sharing what's going on? Or can I invite you to share what's going on for you if no one is sharing?
Yes, a lot of people have three: relaxed, nervous, and calm. I was feeling reflective, impatient, and somber. Calm, ready, and nervous. Relaxed, not ready. Calm, uncertain, relaxed, stressed. Relief, desperation, and clarity. Worried, excited, happy. There's lots of combinations of uncertain and focused at the same time, and it's interesting to explore those tensions. Even the example you gave, Ronan, sometimes there's only one or two butterflies that separate that nervous energy from that excitement energy.
Thank you, Kendra, and thank you everyone for sharing. So we want to support you to try and build that checklist throughout today, throughout the weeks and months ahead. Kendra, I'd love to hand back to you now to take us through the rest of the session.
Thanks, Ronan. The next activity we'd like to do is a deeper dive into direct, the first of our three focus areas, and then we'll continue on and look at move and connect. So these three pillars, if you like, if we bring more attention to these day to day, then we know that how you start the day, how you finish the day, and every hour in between will be quite different. You'll be able to bring more of your best self to perform optimally. So direct, what do we mean by direct? We mean directing your attention. And I'd love to share a little bit of the neuroscience with you around attention management. In order to do that, you need to understand a little bit around how the brain's wired. So the part of the brain I'd like to introduce you to is the prefrontal cortex. So if you put your hand over your forehead, you're covering your prefrontal cortex. So it's the last part of the brain to develop. It's also the part of the brain that holds our executive function or controls our executive function activities like attention, decision making, working memory. It's also the part of the brain that gives you the capacity for empathy. And it's the part of the brain that inhibits responses. So for example, an afternoon tea time today, when you put down the chocolate and you choose to pick up an apple instead, it's this part of the brain that's controlling that moment. What you need to know is that your prefrontal cortex is metabolically expensive to engage. So think of it as though you have a limited amount of glucose and oxygen available for executive function tasks. And when you use that supply up, you don't have as many resources available for the next activity. Your prefrontal cortex is even more compromised whenever there are significant threats in the environment. So have you ever noticed that if you're under pressure to make a difficult decision, it's even more difficult to make? Or if you've been working on completing a complex document and you get interrupted, it's harder to regain your focus after the interruption. So one of the things that we need to do now more than ever in order to maximize our cognitive resources is to think about our thinking. Now, my challenge to you is to think about this question. How would you work differently if you actually operated as though conscious thinking was a limited, precious resource that needed to be conserved and replenished just like any other precious resource? What would you do differently if you really remembered that day to day? So take a moment to think about that question. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to type your thoughts into the chat box. So here's the question again. How would you work differently if you actually operated as though conscious thinking was a limited, precious resource that needed to be conserved and replenished? What would you do? And type your thoughts into the chat box, folks. What would you do? I'd prioritize prioritizing. I'd look at what's the one or two things that are most critical and prioritize doing that. Thanks, BJ. Rest my mind between decisions. Yes, you don't want to make back-to-back decisions. The concept of decision fatigue is very real. You're much more likely to make a mistake. Great tip, BJ. Vicky would focus on doing one thing at a time. Thanks, Vicky. Multitasking is a bit of a myth, folks. If you're doing multiple things at the same time, you're not thinking about all of them. Generally, you're task switching. Every choice wouldn't have to be selfish. Thank you. Mickey's question, what is important? I'd be more focused, avoid distractions. Yes, minimize your distractions. It's an important thing. And I'd have a list, get it out of your head and onto a piece of paper. Thank you, folks. Well, our second pillar, move, actually helps. The more you move, the more you circulate those resources. It's part of the replenishing process. So what is it that you can do to fit just 15 minutes of movement into your day? It doesn't have to be cardiovascular, getting your heart rate up, going to the gym type movement. We're looking at any movement at this point in time. So what can you do? Could you take your stretch breaks? Could you get out and feel the sun on your face and just go for a walk, feel the grass on your feet, earth yourself, ground yourself? Could you fit in a quick workout with the kids? Take the dog for a walk if it's not getting walked 15 times a day and is tired. How can you move? And lastly, how can you connect? And one of our intentions is to provide a place to connect here. But who are the important people in your life that you can reach out to? Is there someone that you could reconnect with that perhaps you've not spent much time with in recent months? Just a quick call to let them know that you're thinking about them. Social contact is a life support, and we might talk more about that tomorrow. So now more than ever, reach out to those that you love and take a minute to jot down who can you connect with, whose life can you make a little bit brighter by reaching out today. Trish has popped into the chat box that she's been doing sprints up the hallway between online and school classes. That gives me great images, Trish. Good on you. Get creative. So remember, 3 tips to make your day even more productive and have you be your best self. Direct the attention, 15 minutes of movement, and reach out, mindfully connect. Ronan, hand back to you to say goodbye to the tribe.
Thank you, Kendra. Thank you so much. Guys, wishing you a wonderful day ahead. Stay connected, and we will be back here again at 5:15 p.m. Sydney time. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Bye, folks.